Welcome to another exploration into consciousness with the Earth Nouveau Hub. Hi, girls. Good to have you here. And today we're going to have a very broad topic, and it's called At Melting Point. And let's see what comes up when we look at the melting point. Let's start with the obvious part of the melting point. It's like melting down, breaking down, letting go, that kind of stuff. So what's happening? What's happening in your reality at the moment? Or what are you seeing in other people's realities at the moment? In your surroundings, in your environment, that is worth looking into when we talk about the melting point. Jody, give it a...
So for me personally, I've noticed a lot of people around me, they're the excuses, the stories that they tell themselves, the identities that they've created aren't working for them anymore, and they are being forced to melt away. And I'm kind of watching to see if these people, do they dust themselves off and create a new life for them? Do they make the effort to really make a positive change, or are they going to sit here and wallow in it? Because kind of those are your two choices: either rise like the phoenix or stay stagnant. And staying stagnant, I'm worried, because that can have really negative effects. We're at the age where if you don't make positive health changes or positive mental health changes, you wither and die. So, yeah, a couple people in my life are finding their melting points and will need to reconfigure their futures.
Mm-hmm. This is probably where when I look at that, which I have in my, I have my own melting points, but and that's where I bring in compassion. And I don't want to call it non-judgment anymore. That used to be the word I used to use a lot, non-judgment anymore. For me, that's a bit antiquated now. It's compassion. Compassion from a place of, well, that's their journey. And also compassion for myself, certainly no longer judging myself for whatever trigger I allow myself to be indulging into, just have compassion and know that their journey requires exactly that melting. It's like we have to melt things down. Like, think of the metal. There's something in for New Year's in Austria, we have a little lead figure, like a little animal. They now no longer allow it because it's lead and apparently it's poisonous. But in the older days, there used to be these little lead figures that we, like at midnight, we melted them on top of a flame of a candle flame, and then we took it and threw it into cold water, and then it created a different shape, and that was the shape that we then sort of tried to identify what it was for the new year. Take a client call. Okay, Jody's taking a client call. So we gotta melt things down first, and all those melting points that we find ourselves in, what if that is something we can use to our advantage? Especially to learn about compassion. What does compassion really mean, right? And I think authenticity, Jody was, what she was talking about is sort of that word of authenticity. People with their masks, we can no longer run around with our masks. They're no longer, it doesn't work. the value system is changing. You know, we are no longer enjoying the jobs, the careers. Our passions are changing. Everything has to go. We have to really strip down naked. And when we're naked, when we're really stripping down, part of this authentic beingness, as far as I'm concerned, is that we have to allow ourselves to melt down in front of others. That's that vulnerability that is such a strength when we can allow ourselves. We don't have to wallow in it, but we have to be in allowance of it. And there is no longer the need for, oh, what have I been doing wrong, and how can I improve myself, and all of that. It's just like, okay, cool, I've done this. And now let's move on from there. We're born naked.
It's a joke that I put in there. You know the famous drag queen RuPaul? He
Yeah,
said,
yeah,
we
yeah.
are born naked and the rest is drag, which is what it is.
Well, yes, yes.
And I have to say that I loved watching a lot of the drag queen shows, because actually the discussions in the workroom, how they call it, you know, when the guys are preparing themselves, they come up with a lot of the talk, you know, how to recreate themselves, how from one persona that they are going into being, you know, an absolute wondrous personality that only comes out once they change into, you know, once they really change into it. Because their personality, somewhere inside of them, it exists and it comes out, and the diva comes out, or whatever they want to represent. And then once it's gone, they are again, you know, just little Tommy from, you know, from around the corner, who actually looks ugly, and only when he comes out as a woman, he's actually gorgeous, you know. So it's like, and it made me also reflect a lot on, you know, what I have been doing my whole life, this pleaser personality, you know, that always came out to please everyone, because I thought that was one of my jobs to do. Pleasing people, in a sense, like, okay, that is how I'm being accepted, because how I really am, you know, people might not accept me for that, because I do not fit in. I was always the tallest, always this, always that, always the loudest. And yeah, I did not really live up to that, unless I would have gone down the road of being an actress. Well, okay, that would have been obnoxious, right? No, but yes, this melting point, and everything that I'm hearing, and also this, there is the quote by Rumi that, you know, when you open them, it's the wound is where the light comes in, you know. But what if you are already so open and light, like you said before, you know, we already reflecting so much light and let so much light in, that this is maybe the melting point where we then strip ourselves of whatever is rest, you know, and the of whatever is left. I'm sorry. So the compassion part is, and I prefer that much more than to judgmental, because everybody is always judging. I mean, you do it unconsciously. Come on. I mean, it's so ingrained, but this is also something that is natural, because even in the natural environment, you know, the nature and plants and animals and everything has to judge, is this livable? Can I do that? Can I survive here or not? So you have to take on a judgment, right? In some way. And it's a choice or not a choice, but it comes from what? From a judgment that you made. Is it possible for me to survive here or not, in a sense? So in the broader picture. So I like this thing about compassion, because I had to find ways to find this compassion in front of people that are not following down my multiple lines of thoughts that are going in every direction in 5 seconds. And I'm like, come on, people, you know, get up, get moving. Why are you still not, you know, why don't you get it? This is just one example, but I was confronted by it, because I was triggered by so many discussions where I'm like, why are you still, you know, in this in this antiquated thinking of things. And I'm like, you know, we have gone through this many times. It's the other discussion group that I'm also participating in. And I couldn't, and it triggered me so much that I became angry and that I was impatient, that I even stopped the video and I had to move around because it just, you know, I was like, whoa, really? And then I was like, why am I being triggered by this so much? And that is where, okay, the melting point came in, you know, like, why am I being triggered by this? It's because, you know, what I claim to be, why am I not putting that forward to myself? You know, I claim to be this open-minded person. So why am I then reacting like this, not this judgmental bitch in a sense, you know? Why am I being triggered by that? Why can I just not let it go and let this person go on their journey, find it out by themselves? The compassion. So this is where you come in with the compassion, right? And in more and more, I understand why still Mother Teresa is probably one of my idols, because I think I need to learn a lot from the aspect of compassion, right? So yeah, very, very, the melting point, yeah, was real in a sense. And I really fell into I'm not a person who was falling into a deep hole, but it was one like, okay, I was miffed at myself with it. And so I was like, okay, where to go from here? And now I'm slowly, I'm listening to things just to get, I'm listening to other views, you know, other people that are dealing with this, just to maybe reflect on it and see what can I pick what can I pick from that to move on or move along, you know, to actually be the change again, you know, to change into the next persona.
I like a lot about what you said, Sandrine. I've been going through a lot of that myself too. I've always been a people pleaser also. And I always had this really, I never expected it from others, but I expected perfection of myself. And there is no such thing as perfection, right? So I was always setting myself up to fail, because when I would work so hard to be perfect for a client or for my parents or whatever it was, if some like a chink in that fell out, then like it would really put me in a downward spiral for a while. And it's not that I care any less than I did before, but I don't let it affect me like it used to. You just look at it objectively for how do we improve the situation, or reset expectations around the situation, because sometimes people expect things that are just not realistic or possible. But that people pleasing has been showing up for me a lot, and my melting point was somebody projecting a lot of hypercriticism at me that was really something that she was judging herself for, but she decided to throw it back at me, and I just decided that I wasn't going to accept that. And so I wasn't ugly about it, and I didn't say any words that I would regret. And I didn't say it in a way that I would regret it, but I was very clear that I wasn't going to accept that. It wasn't true and it wasn't fair, and that she needed to adjust how she approached me with things like that, because I wasn't going to accept that anymore. So, and I don't know that I would have done that. I know I wouldn't have done that 5 years ago. But I still had compassion for the situation. I could see it for what it was, and I didn't judge her, but I did set a boundary that I didn't have any reason to not enforce anymore.
You know,
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, go Sandrine.
And isn't it just wondrous how, and this is not to put any shade on the person, because I don't know the situation at all, but isn't it just wondrous how in such a situation, the person who is actually in fault, let's say, is then reinforcing the fact that you are the one who's you know, who is the bad person, who doesn't get it, and who needs to deal with that, you know, with their nonsense and their shit. And you're like, why am I even going there, you know?
Absolutely. But, you know, we always look at things as a mirror, right? And what's happening with other people around us, we've put that in our hologram for a reason. It's something for us to look at. You know what I mean? So when those things happen, I do pause and I look at it for what is it trying to teach me? What am I trying to teach myself in that moment? Because I'm tired of learning the same lessons over and over and over again. I'm ready to put some of those to bed so that I can work on some new lessons. Or maybe none at all. I don't know.
Yeah, right. No, right.
The teacher appears, right? When the
Mhm.
student is ready, and that sounds not entirely, not to be misunderstood here, but whoever still triggers us is a teacher.
Mhm.
Because at the end of the day, just like you say, Jen, you know, you standing up and reinforcing your boundaries is something that was required.
Mhm.
Did it, and maybe that's something you need to fortify a bit more, you know, more often. That's why this came up for you. And you know, I'm not even saying that that is the case, because there's another element to this. Yeah, there's an element of not putting ourselves anymore in a situation where these things occur. Not from a protective perspective. The teaching is that we are still putting ourselves in an environment with certain people, with certain beings, doesn't have to be, you know, beings with bodies, just or the environment where we are no longer need to be. So there's an expanded way of looking at it as far as I'm concerned. And that has been really coming home to me. You know, it's like, okay, no more judgment, compassion, all good, it's all good. So why is this still happening? Why am I still getting triggered by that? Well, very simply, what the hell are you doing there? You're not supposed to be you're not supposed to be there. Remember we did this, what's it called? You know, the certain countries you're supposed to be living in or not living in and that kind of thing. Autography or something, I can't remember now. Remember? Anyway, there are certain places where we're not supposed to be in.
The astrophysics, the astro thingy there,
Yeah.
yeah.
And it's the same now. Think of that. And this is what it's like. Okay, why am I putting myself into a morphogenetic field where I sort of already know that this is going to happen and then still go there? And that's the question. And if it's not a true choice, then the teacher will come forward. If you go to these places and you know, but you know, this is my choice now, it's a choice. You know, for me, it happened and it wasn't entirely a choice. Of course, I chose it, but it wasn't entirely a choice. I wouldn't have done it if not somebody else would have booked it. You know what I mean? And that's what triggered the situation, because I already knew, I had the awareness that it's going to happen, and I still put myself in. And this is why allowance must not exceed awareness. That is the big key. We have an awareness, don't neglect it. And the other thing is, and this is the train scenario we were talking about. You know, the trains are leaving the train station. Which train are you on? You can still swap around a little bit, but at some stage you got to make it. This is choice point the next couple of months and years. Which train are you on? You going towards galactic citizenship, towards a certain, that's just my train obviously saying galactic citizenship, but you know, going,
It's the buzzword, she has to put it in at least once.
exactly towards a certain I don't want to say goal, but a certain path. Because Not everyone is going to be on that path, and it's going to be tough to leave the ones behind, but it's not really going to be tough because, you know, vibrational resonance will take care of that anyway. But that's what we have to keep choosing. And I think what's going to make it easier for us to choose is really looking at, okay, I don't make myself wrong anymore. I don't judge myself anymore. I have this compassion. It's all good. But what comes after that? There is a bridge we have to cross over where we then can say, I'm now free. I can truly, truly choose. And that bridge for me is really the celebration bridge, saying, okay, I'm no longer having to make myself wrong, but now I have to celebrate who I am. I don't have to make myself right, but I have to celebrate who I am. I have to back myself up. I have to have my back. I have to be authentic. That's the word that came up early on. I have to be authentic. And will that authenticity rave others up? Yes, that it will. Because the authentic people who are just limitless will piss the others off. Absolutely. But then the question is, why are you still with those people? And the why question is almost like a bit judgmental at the same time. For what purpose are you still with those people? And even if you are still with those people because you have to have certain responsibility, you know, to bring them back into your reality, just remind yourself you're choosing this. You're choosing this. They're not choosing you, you're choosing them. And as long as you're choosing them, because you're kind, because you're compassionate, because you can, because you are a healer at the end of the day, even though you're not, you know, putting your hands on them anymore, you're still choosing it until you no longer choose it.
I mean, it's all good. It's just that sometimes, I mean, yeah, you're choosing it, but it's here. Well, in my case, a few things in my case have to deal with family, and family, you know, you don't choose family. I mean, you can choose your family in the sense, but you know, the ones where you are sprang off from, those are difficult in a sense to then make understand that no, you don't want to see them, and no, because it's, you know, and this is where another melting point which happened just came together as well, where although I wanted to escape it and I wanted to choose not to inform about certain things, I had to for circumstances that were out of my hands. And then again, you know, the whole route and where I think like, yeah, but you know, at one stage we are still living in a society where we are confronted by society and social living. You cannot really become the hermit, you know, that we would love to be. I mean, a few of us.
No, and absolutely right. That's entirely not what we are supposed to be doing anyway. It's when we're choosing something, we're choosing it because we can and because we are able to deal with it. Do you know what I mean? We're not choosing it for them. We're choosing it because it's our choice. And that makes a difference. We're choosing for you and as you. Because otherwise you just haven't elevated and the next level of people pleasing. That's no longer people pleasing when you make a choice to be
Right.
you choose it. Look, there are people never go back to the families ever. They just leave the country. That's it. Never ever speak to them again. But you're not choosing that because it's the caliber that you are. You can, you know. It's not.
I was just I get that. I was more referring to situations where there are things happening which are out of your hand, you know. It's like
No. Sorry, I have to pick you up on this. There's no such thing. Nothing ever happens that is out of your hand.
Well, I mean, okay. Well, no, I disagree on that, but because there are situations that are coming up where you cannot, it happens, you know, if you are influencing it or not. I mean, from afar, it's always difficult to influence a few things.
I just leave it there, and absolutely.
Okay.
We always have choice, let's just say that. And if we choose the easy way out, let's just say we choose the easy way out because it's just easier for certain reasons, then we're choosing it because we know that we can deal with the slightly heavier part.
Well, the answer is both. There are some things that we don't really have control of, like politics, but you choose whether or not you entangle with it. You choose whether you participate in it. You know, my parents make choices that I'm on the peripheral of it. And it's not my choice, but I choose how I walk around it and where I want to participate in helping them through it, but not making it my own. So I can see where both of you are coming from.
Yeah.
That's the surrender, and that's, you know, that's when we call ourselves enlightened or awakened or at a certain level of self-development. Then we just have to remind ourselves. Of course, we all step into the, you know, onto the other side, but at the end of the day, we always have a choice. And the other thing to that is surrender. What does it mean to surrender with a melting point? What the problem I've had when I went back, I did not surrender. I knew what the field was like, and I didn't surrender to the field. I could have chosen it. I did stand up, like Jen, you would, to certain things, and that was good. But there were other things where I allowed myself to go into, it shouldn't be that way. And that was the resistance that I have. It shouldn't be that way. Because it is that way. It just is. So the surrender with the flow, with the feel, you know, that constant surrender. And it's damn difficult. Yeah, it is. But the good thing is that we have all the tools now. So if we do entangle, we can unentangle just like that. We can just, you know, expand ourselves out. I kept expanding myself out all the time. And that literally changes the energetic field very, very quickly. And as you say, Jen, yeah, and Sandrine, you know, there's when we start living from the soul's perspective, there is no right or wrong anymore. There is no should, would, cause. It just is. That just is. Everyone is right. For whatever purpose, for whatever reason they're doing it. And that's not for us to even analyze. I mean, I used to analyze everything. That's how I learned, and I'm super grateful I did, but now I don't need to analyze it anymore. I don't want to go into the psyche of other people because you get caught in it. And that's not because I'm too small to go into it. No, I just know now, why would I do this? Don't even go there. Move away, move along. Mix with the people that do speak your language. And it's not always possible, but more and more. And I heard, you know, it's like focus. We talked about gravity. And focus, what to focus on. And sometimes, you know, the more we focus on something, the more limited we become, because we lose the multidimensional sort of perspectives, that kind of thing. So, but I think at some stage, and I heard Bashar say the other day, I mean, it was a good interview, his last one with, I think, Soul Level podcast or something. And he was saying that that species, they no longer really experience the negative, the hardship or anything, because over thousands of years they've been practicing to focus on what they actually do want. So it's a bit of a journey, I think. We need to sort of come to the realization that we're probably in the beginning of that journey.
Mm.
Surrender into the melting pot. Allow us, this is the other thing. I mean, I think Jody was saying it, right? Letting go of the masks, letting go of the definitions, letting go of, you know, our titles, of our, you know, it's been so, I'm thinking of my website, you know, my Synchronistic website. I still got it up. Still got it up, and I'm not doing anything, and I'm still paying for having it, you know, on the server. And it's like, why don't you just delete it?
Death
Still
of the ego has been really in front of me the last couple of weeks. That's what you're looking at, is death of the ego, right? You thought use a different word than ego, but death
Feels
of your identity.
it feels like a safety net.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that as well. I
Yeah.
think sometimes we hang on things because we just think that was, you worked hard for it. You had a whole journey that you did to get there and to make it happen. And now you're like, okay, can I let go of that? And there is still probably something that you're still clinging on, which for whatever it is, it could be the stupidest little thingy, but yeah, there is still something that you are clinging on, and that you need it to be there and to know that it's still there. I get
That's
that.
what-
I have one, just a stupid thing. I got rid of my previous website, blah, 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 things I let go of, fine. But for instance, I still receive a newsletter from somebody that I'm like, I don't even want to do anything on it anymore, but I feel like I need to keep it for, there is still something there probably. And I'm not even reading it anymore. I just see it coming in and I'm like, and then I delete it. But others I have no problem. I just unsubscribe. But this one is like, nah, you still need to be around somehow.
That's what
For
this new
whatever
job
reason.
is. For me, it's my
For you.
in-between. Yeah. It's my in-between from like what I hold now to moving more into like the healing center and the healing practice and stuff like that. I wasn't ready to like just set off a bomb and walk away from it. I had to have an in-between. This is my in-between. I call that death of the ego because I'm getting away from how I've always identified myself into something completely new. And I needed a transition.
This is something that I have been, I kind of have been looking for, not really looking for, but I'm kind of like waiting for to happen, the in-between, the thing that could bring me out of where I'm now. Although again, I absolutely adore my job. I love doing it. It brings me a lot of things that are material and non-material, blah, blah, blah. But then I'm thinking, but do I really want to continue like that? Then I'm thinking, do I need to change the way I am in my job? You know, looking for different aspects. And here we have, again, I can choose. There is a multiplicity of things that I could be doing in the next, you know, in my next job, in a sense, still within the agency or still within the field of work that I'm working in. But then I'm wondering, would it be interesting to just, you know, move out, do something else, but then okay, now that I feel so comfortable in what I'm doing and I know how to do my job, I don't have to work the 10 hours plus, per day to prove that I am able to do it, but I can do it more, in a decent work environment and decent hours and stuff like that. Would that be taken away from me if if I would move on, look for something else, or wait for something else to happen, or I don't know. So yeah, I get you there, and I really applaud your courage to actually step out and do something else. Not something else, but even moving from a different company and then doing something else on the side. Really interesting.
Thank you. I judged myself a little bit for needing an in between, but I did, and that's where I felt comfortably uncomfortable. Because like Martina was saying when we first got on the line, there's been so much change that I've rotated around me that I've kept myself really in a consistent state of uncomfortable. And I don't like being uncomfortable, but that is where we make progress and movement when we get out of our comfort zone. So this year's been a lot of that. The last 3 years have been a lot of that.
Well, I also think, Jen, it's like using your awareness. What is required? Not about is in between good or bad, what is required for me to create the most beneficial outcome, and I think this is at the end of the day, and this is why, our values or ego deaths or, the way we define ego or anything else are completely changing, because you got to know what works for you. Matter how you want to define it or how other people perceive it, and it's like that bridging again, that in between. It's like from, oh, I am wrong. No, you're no longer wrong, but oh, am I right? That there's an in between, saying that I'm wrong, because for how many, lifetimes have we said, we are wrong, or have we been made wrong? And then all of a sudden now we can't just say, okay, no, I'm right. No, there has to be a practice of, yes, this works for me. We don't use probably the word right anymore, because right and wrong goes out the window, but it's like, is this working for me? And how is this working for me? What am I actually aware of in order to choose that? So absolutely. But I think also this is the other thing that that came up for me through this sort of looking at the melting point. The word action came up, because I'm the last couple of months, years probably, I really like my hermit space. I really know that I do need my alone time. And I never had that before. I never asked for it. I never thought I wanted it. It was very, very difficult for me to actually allow myself to be in that space. And now I can totally appreciate it, that I need that space, that alone space, for me to rejuvenate, to cleanse, to clear, to God knows whatever else, to in fact have ideas and to connect to my multidimensionality. And I was asking myself the question, being like thrown into the action, right in the middle of distraction. I thought, that's a good question. What's the difference between action? Because action is required for us to make experiences. So I'm an action chick still, but what's the difference between action and distraction?
The distraction is, yeah, go ahead, Jen.
I was going to say the distraction is I mean, I would consider that for myself a procrastination technique. So when I choose something to distract myself, I'm procrastinating from something that
Yep.
requires action, but I'm resisting it for some reason.
Yeah. And then we use this explanation that, oh, all in good times, right? Wasn't the right time to complete it.
In
Right?
divine timing, right? It's not
Right.
divine timing.
I
No,
know.
No, I'm a big fan of that. I'm a big fan of divine timing.
But it's also called
really-
procrastination, you know?
It can be a crutch. I was only kidding.
Yeah.
Procrastination. No, seriously, I don't understand procrastination at all.
Oh my God, I do. I am the master of procrastination. Anybody who really knows me, if I call you out of the blue and I just start rambling, like they call me on it. Like, what do you want? What do you not want to do? Because the only time I'm really like that chatty is when I really don't want to do something and I'm looking for anything to do besides that.
Okay, now let me introduce something here. That just gave me an idea. Action, because action for me, I looked at this the other day and I thought, no, I have to redefine action. Because action for me was always like do hardship. Come on, let's do this. It was always fun. It was always, it wasn't like hardship as such, but it was always do, right? And there's a plan and you got to go and there's timing to it and there's this and there's that. And that doesn't work for me anymore. Okay, so I hear what you guys are saying. So, procrastination, okay, that's not for me, but you just said something. Speaking to people. And what if interaction got action as well in the word? What if interaction is the new action?
Could be.
Because frankly, when I got like, oh God, I got to do something, and then I pick up the phone and speak to somebody or do our events, I'm like, okay, everything's out the window. I'm cool. That's great. So is it the interaction that is part of the action that we require?
No, for me, for instance, it's completely different. If I need, usually I'm very good at finishing things. Because I love when I finish something, then I'm happy that it's done. But then I also have a lot of projects going on, right? And they cannot all be finished, in due time, because I only have two hands in a sense. But then if I notice that I would love to finish one thing and then suddenly I start rearranging my other people would start cleaning, but I live on my own and I have a cleaning lady who does that every day because she just loves doing it. So I have nothing to clean, honestly. And if I start rearranging my wardrobe, then I know that I'm actually escaping something, truly escaping something. And then I'm like, okay, what's going on? And then I'm like, it will come when it will come and it's fine. And I don't need to talk to somebody about it. I probably should maybe pick up the phone and then just, drop a line to somebody. But I feel then in that moment that I'm becoming more and more the hermit and I don't want to talk to anybody and I don't want, to be entangled with anything that is coming up on the other side then, because I really don't want to listen to that. I think it has a lot to do with the fact that on weekends when my parents call me, I have put in place that they only call me once per week. Okay. And that then at that moment, I am being, I get updated on everything that is happening around them. And I'm not really interested in that. I try already to always say that I would love to have another conversation on something else, but it's not working. Then I'm like surrendering. Like, okay, now you just shut up, just listen. You say yes, you say no, you laugh, or you say, oh, really? And you let it go, right? So in a sense, then on the weekends, I really do not want to talk to anybody. No. Unless you come up, you write something in the group and it's very interesting, and that gets me distracted, because then I'm following down the rabbit hole of, looking for something interesting.
Well, is that action or distraction?
It depends on what I'm doing. But in a sense, as it has nothing to do with my job, for me, it's not even distraction. I mean, if, for instance, I would, for my professional life, have to finish something on that weekend, and I was looking for some complete, not finishing it for whatever reason, then it would be distraction. But mostly on the weekends, I just do my shit, which is not, there is no deadline, that needs to be finished, at all.
How do we
So that's not even distraction then for me.
How do we define distraction? Distraction for me is anything that doesn't make me joyful.
Oh, interesting. I would actually think that distraction would be interesting to make you joyful. It could be something that is, could distract you from your grinding, from your everyday something, and you're just being distracted, and it's, oh, interesting. It's something new. But I'm always like that, I always love to see there's something new. So if you distract me with something, I probably find it joyful.
Yeah. Yeah, but isn't that interesting? You see, and this is why, it's important to look at stuff like that, because we all define things differently. And for me, and I don't know if it was always like, I don't think I ever thought about distraction in my early years, or, but for me, always distraction was always, it distracts me from what I really want to do. That's distraction. What's really joyful. I've had this weekend, there could be procrastination, what some people would say. I don't know. I said to Emma, we need to do a car boot to sell on the market, because, she wanted to make some money for her France trip and blah, blah, blah. And I have lots to sell. So we've been holding it off quite a bit. Procrastinate. I don't know. The time was never right, because she couldn't come, la, la, la. Anyway, so we did it. And we had to force ourselves to get up, early and pack the car, and we did it. And she was a bit hungover, or at least didn't have that many hours sleep. And I had a lot of the things that I've been, buying, collecting for my shop that never happened. And I started putting those out on, and all the collectors came, and had the most magnificent, simple, but so creative conversations with these people. It's like I had one of the guys was telling me that he once bought a bottle that was locked, a closed up bottle, and there was a spirit in it, a ghost or something, and he couldn't get rid of it, so he had to he was a metal detector guy. And so he took the bottle and put it into the shed with all his findings from the metal detector, like from the Roman times, coins and everything. And he thought, I'm just going to leave the bottle there and they will sort themselves out, And so it only took one night. The next morning he got there and the ghost was gone. They sorted it all out and he could take the bottle back. It was such a, like totally on my wavelength, those conversations, And Emma was just, listening, and there was so many other things that happened. And then I had two little dragons that I said to Emma, when we have two kids come, we give them the dragons. And those two little boys came and I gave them the dragons, and there was just like, oh my God, it's magical, and everything. And again, they were telling me about the fairies they're working with and sleeping with and all sorts of things. It was such magical conversations. And I'm wondering, I want to, something in me says, you know what, did I have to do the car boot exactly on that Sunday or Monday when it was? Because these were the people that I had to meet in order to have these conversations.
Yeah.
I'm a sucker for that because I love synchronicities, and yeah. And if I would have done it on a day where I would have been stressed out and felt I don't really want to be here, I wouldn't have been so open, haggle with people for 150 until I told them to piss off because, but it was all so fun and so light. And even though MC Head was a sourpuss, she was like, oh my God, I said, this was just a car boot and you made 230 pounds or whatever, which is great for a little
Wow,
country.
yeah.
And it could have been more, but there weren't that many people there at the time. But I said, just see what we achieved here now in these 4 hours. Was it really such a hardship? And compared to your job, you going every day and you are exhausted and drained from the conversations there because they are just so not very contributory, And it just made me realize that, what did I do? Was it a super action being there? Yeah, I showed up. But it was the interaction with the people that was the real action for me. Melting point. So surrendering, compassion. What else? What else can we think of what is melting? What does it mean?
It's changing substrate, it's changing your consistent, your form, whatever form it is, in a sense.
Changing structure, yeah.
Mm.
Changing old paradigms, because that's what's happening on the bigger picture.
Oh,
now, who is melting?
What is melting?
Yeah, we come to that too. So who is melting?
Who is melting?
Our masks, like we said, our old identities, our egos, our value systems, our old passions,
But then it's more like in layers, right? I mean, because it's like you're actually getting to the gem in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
So in an oyster, the thing is different. You have a grain of sand, and then the layers are building up, and that's the pearl. But here it's more like, there is something ingrained in us. There is one seed that is, okay, I'm pure, and that is where you need to get to. So here we are just trying to actually, shed off those layers. So it's a reverse pearling in a sense.
Yeah, programs, conditioning, all of that, so that we get to the pearl. You could even it's a cool metaphor. You could even use the pearl, because at the end of the day, that soul essence that we are, right? That is, and even the soul essence, even the higher mind as such, is conditioned. So it's not just humanness in us, it's even that, because we come in already tainted with our conditioning through the genetics and all of that. Yeah, but who is melting? I mean, it's us, yes, humans, but then again, everything that we have ever known as our tools, our environments and everything. But then the whole universe is melting, right? The whole universe is changing.
Absolutely, because I just want, I mean, if I look at, your companion animals, they are melting as much as you do, because I mean, you are conditioned, you're conditioning, mutually on these things. So they are also melting in a sense and behaving differently and letting go of things that they just notice that don't, serve them.
I mean, this is an interesting thing you mentioned that, because I feel really sad in a way, because since I've been back, Milo is very offish, not just the usual offish. He literally doesn't come home. Spends his entire day. I think he's got a girlfriend somewhere. His entire day,
Mhm.
my cat. Milo's my cat, and he just, yeah. Last night he didn't come home, and I'm really upset. I'm like, I'm jealous. I'm like, what the fuck? Who is better than I am?
You are probably, yes.
Totally
Mhm.
jealous. It's so interesting that, separation of density is not just between people. It's also the cats are moving on.
Mhm.
So, it's like, okay, he's obviously there's somebody who needs him. Yes. But hey ho, I need him too, right?
Be more compassionate,
I
for
know.
him. If he found a girlfriend, finally.
No, I've got Mia still. But hey ho, yeah, it's interesting. Everything is changing. Who? Asking the melting question. Why?
Because that's just what it is. The only thing that is not changing is change. Honestly, that is the whole thing that still paradoxically remains the same. The change.
Mm.
You can dig as deep as you want. That is what is just not changing. The change. Because it's constant. It's all the time, all the time, all the time, every second, every moment, every millisecond, every whatever quantum moment. And then we just make everything around it so
Story.
layer and layer and stories and stories. I know it's but isn't that just amazing? Isn't that just amazing?
Yeah, but that's what we're here for. It's called experience, right? Creating experience is that consciousness gets to know itself. Jen, are you still there? Oh, she's probably
No,
busy.
I am. I
Yeah.
was just listening to all of that. So while you're having that exchange with your cat, my cat's becoming more and more close to me. But I had to learn to treat her more like a dog. With Marbles, the more you treat her like a dog, the more she bonds with me. The more I was trying to like respect her space as a cat, like the more the stranger, the more distant she felt. So now that I treat her more and more like a dog, like she's cuddly at night, and I don't know, she does all the dog things. So she's been closer to me than she was before. And like when she wants to go out late at night, I can tell her we'll come back for bedtime and she'll be back right in time for me to get into bed. So yeah, no, that's been interesting. Going going off topic just a little bit, but with that message of the animals. I've talked about the Gene Keys. I really like the Gene Keys. They have a dream arc retreat that I've been doing, and a lady that I had met in the activation sequence retreat had told me about it and said that when she did it, like every day was full of mystical experiences. And I've been experiencing that again, and I think it's just holding yourself back in that frequency of, like I call it the easy bandwidth, but holding yourself in that frequency of universal flow. And the dream arc is all about how the animal kingdom communicates with us spiritually and energetically. And so as I've been going through the different modules and listening to the meditations and the messages from the animals and things like that, it has set a frequency around me that draws the animals in. So just in the last couple of weeks, like when I was in California, the first day there, my aunt's dog, I started in San Diego, and my aunt's dog is 15 and is not in great health and doesn't have a lot of energy left, often isn't very mentally checked in, but that dog wouldn't not be at my feet. And anytime I sat down, he wanted to be in my lap and playing with me. And he hasn't done that in like, I don't know, 6-7 years. So they just couldn't believe that he was acting like that. And then I leave there and I went to LA and visiting with a friend of mine sitting on her porch, and there were these feral cats around. And she said, well, not to worry about them, that they don't ever get close to him. One of those cats walked right up to me to sniff my foot. And he looked me straight in the eye, and you could tell that he was nervous, but he couldn't not come toward me. And I heard that cat say, "What are you?" And then like he darted away, and Tracy just kind of looked at me incredulously. He darted away, and then he came back again and sat at my feet and looked at me and said to me, "What are you?" And then he ran off again. And then it's a black cat with big green eyes. And then we went downtown LA to have lunch with another friend of ours from high school. And after lunch, we went up to a trail to go for, I don't know, it's probably a 4-mile hike, like high above the city, where you could kind of see the skyline in the backdrop. And there's all this like natural sage, wild sage growing along the trail. It was so amazing, like the smell. But we got up to the summit, and then we started to like go back down the other side of the loop, and I kept hearing something big in the trees squawking at me. And so I couldn't see it, but I could hear it, and it was big, but it sounded a lot like a crow. And I'm like, "Are you a crow?" And it squawked louder. It was, "No, I'm not a crow." And even Tracy thought it was funny, because she's not like into the woo-woo at all. And she said, "Is it a raven?" I'm mad at that. "No, I'm not a raven." So I laughed, and I said, "Well, show yourself to us." And as soon as I said that out loud, and as soon as I said that, he hopped out of the next tree and onto a tree that had fallen down to where we could see him, and that it was a golden eagle, and it looked me right in the eye. And like we stood there, and I communicated with this bird for, I don't know, 4 or 5 minutes. And Tracy looked at me, and she's like, "What are you, Snow White?" I'm like, "I don't know." But I had this like little conversation with this bird about like honoring my sovereignty, like he was honoring my sovereignty. And then I went to while I was in California, so I left LA and I went up to San Francisco and got to see Tanya and Cynthia. And while I was there, I also did a QHHT session for somebody else, and her dog wouldn't not lay across me. And she got a little jealous. She said that she doesn't even snuggle with her, but that dog just wanted to be like on my lap, like laid across me. And of course, my animals are like that anyway, but my backyard's full of birds. I have rabbits now. I've never had rabbits in my yard at this house.
How are the
Butterflies.
crickets?
The cicadas are gone. The
Oh,
crickets
okay.
are there. So yeah, the cicadas have had their season and gone.
Okay.
But I do have crickets now. Butterflies have been everywhere around me. Butterflies and dragonflies. That's why I started doing a butterfly painting, because the butterflies have been coming around like just with a message of transformation. So I'm sure it's one of those when like what you look at looks back at you, but it has been interesting that it's not just like what I see in something. Like that feral cat and the eagle were really something that like you can't just chalk up to like, crossing by a caterpillar and deciding that it's speaking to you. They were very deliberate.
Amazing.
That's cool.
Right. That's a lovely example for at melting point,
Mm-hmm.
right? Too.
Changing form, yeah.
And we're, that saying we're all one, that there is no,
Yes.
there is no separation between the celestial kind. So it's a beautiful, beautiful stories. Thank you for sharing those.
Been some fun experiences.
Oh, absolutely. The other day, I was just very happy that I have a little gecko in my house. No, because in Asia you have the transparent, the ones that have like the whitish skin color. Those geckos that are living on the ceilings, and in some civilizations they say that it's a good spirit that is coming into your house. And I had one in my house in Myanmar who lived in my kitchen, and I was very happy with him. And so having one like that now in my apartment here, and I was like, where did it come from? And I'm very happy that he's there, and I hope that he remains. Just have to tell my cleaning lady that he should leave him, but she will. I know she won't do anything to him. So, but just picking up on the animals, I don't know. The other day I told you that some of our street dogs now I need to feed them one kibble by one kibble, because that's apparently now how they would like to be fed. So we are moving slowly back to, you eat by yourself, but still it's like half of the bowl remains, and then they come and sit next to me, and then they're like, can we get fed, please? And then I have to do one kibble by one kibble by one.
You see, this is the animals, they're celebrating themselves as well. They know who they are, and that's what they want to do, Switch over to my computer. Okay, cool. Yeah, that interspecies communication. Do you know, sometimes it feels like when you're talking to people that you don't necessarily want to talk to, or, I know it's a choice and all of that, but it's a bit heavy, the talking or something. That's a distraction. That's a distraction too. So sometimes, just having your own communication with the unseen world, be that now animals or, any other celestial kind, that is more joyful than having those must-have conversations, right?
Yeah, funnily enough, right before, so my alarm goes off, and then I put off the alarm. Usually I get up, but these couple of days I was more like, okay, I'll turn around one more time, just close the eyes and have another 2 seconds snooze something. And this is where I received 2 messages from a female voice. One was loudly, and I have wax earplugs in until I'm getting up. One was tassel. It was a female voice saying to me, tassel. Okay. And now it was yesterday morning, another female voice, quite screechingly, said a thing that I couldn't understand. But it was again like a word, just a word, getting it out. I'm like, okay. Okay, thank you. I said thank you, I take notice of it, and I will try to, but I have no idea where it's coming from.
Good. Yeah, I think that's melting point material, because as we're melting with all our versions of ourselves, it could be versions of ourselves that want to communicate with us, or like with Jennifer, all the animals, or God knows, like Bashar, not just Bashar, lots of others are saying 26, 27, we're going to have events where we finally going to be confronted, or allowed, where we're going to be allowed to know that actually there are other species in this universe, as if we wouldn't know, but still on a public display. So it's just round the corner. I mean, Emma was sending me some TikTok this morning, about new species that are coming out, and underwater species. So, and they look super scary. Oh my God, they can transform themselves, and the eyes pop out, this and that. And I'm like, yeah, that's prep work. That's prep work. I mean, in the beginning, I don't anticipate to be confronted with those wacky, species right away, especially for the, majority of the population, but they're all out there, right? I mean, we're already working with them. Melting point. We're all coming together. We're all learning, contributing to each other. So those voices, yeah, write it down, Sandrine.
Yeah, if the second word I would have understood what she was saying, I would have written it down, but I have no clue what she said.
Right. This is where, we did last time, Jen, you weren't here. We did a little bit of that image streaming exercise. And that's a really, really cool, some people use it to bring out their genius, to connect to their true selves. Some people use it for remote viewing. It's just like we do it naturally anyway, where we're just having conversations with ourselves. So whatever we see, you know, it's just like, okay, what can you see? And you close your eyes and then what comes to mind. But just practice and you say it out loud and you record it or you have somebody to witness it. And that's a really cool practice to do. For especially working for this topic, melting point, you know, because in the beginning it's a lot of imagination, which is the bridge until we can truly perceive it more with our new senses. It becomes more tangible. In the beginning, the key is imagination. The imagination is the link between the lower mind and the higher mind. Yeah, that's what we need to work on.
Something on distraction. And we have picked up on that already at a different conversation, where I know I'm an explorer and I love to do it, but also the fact that I'm being distracted by following down the rabbit holes and the informations and stuff that I find very interesting because I'm being triggered by them. And then I'm triggered in a good sense, you know, interested by them. That could also kind of be the distraction that I'm not allowing myself to just completely open up. And, you know, going into the imagination, my imagination is always running, but in a sense that stopping it to run, you know, just don't. So now I started doing yin yoga again in the evening. So I'm kind of like stopping what I'm at once. I look at the clock and I'm like, okay, now I stop everything. I close down everything and I just do half an hour of the yin yoga where I'm just, you know, trying to return to go in within, because otherwise I'm just continuously being distracted again by. But distraction again, it's interesting what I'm reading. It's not it's not like soap operas or stuff like that. But just saying, you know, that is also a distraction, because it doesn't allow me then to go in within and just, as you said, calm down, take care of myself.
So I need to turn this around now, because for me distraction is the opposite.
Yeah.
Some you know, and I need to just swap this around in my head, you know. I've had this thing with the meditation for a long time, you know, that I could not do that transcendental meditation where I just sit and let go of. But for me, it was a definition thing. You know, it was like people say, oh, your thoughts are distracting you. For me, it was just the misunderstanding of what people consider meditation to be, because it depends who you are, right? Meditation can be exactly that when you do sit down for a moment and all these thoughts are coming in, well, what if that is meditation? Because that would go nicely with our image streaming idea, right? Where you're actually connecting. And I suppose, you know, over the years where I allowed myself to not make myself wrong for the way I meditate, because I went the other way. I said, okay, mantra and movement and Kundalini this and that, just to get myself away from the thoughts. But what was I doing? I was really just distracting myself in your sense of the matter, because I was distracting myself from having all these thoughts coming in. Because were they thoughts, were they images? Was there something out there? Is there something out there that wants to connect with me? What if that is actually really what I'm here for? Interaction. I'm really loving this, you know, this action, because I was like, oh, I have to act, I have to go out, I have to do this. I'm like, no, fuck that. I just need to interact. I'm doing it. Action. Interaction. That's what I need to do for now. You know what I mean? And then maybe
But you see this interaction I'm actually doing with myself during that half hour of yin yoga, where I'm just concentrating. I'm in one pose and I'm just letting everything sink in, and I'm not being distracted by, you know, I still have my thoughts. They are still running in all directions, wherever you want to go, because that's it. I close my eyes, it's just darkness. I don't even see an image, you know, I'm more sensory in that sense, right? So, and then there is also a certain melting point that is happening when I'm in the pose, because you hold those for up to a minute or a minute and a half or 3, it depends on what pose you're using. And that is where I notice that I'm suddenly within me, where I'm letting go. You know, it's the melting into the pose and letting, you know, all the distractions of the stress and the muscles that have been, you know, been clenched like that, just finally melt away. So there is another melting point in that. And usually then there are some brilliant ideas that are coming up, or something that I need to write down, because I finally let my brain just digest, you know, go through the digestive process of everything that I put into it.
That's letting the genie out of the bottle through meditation, right?
Yeah, meditation can be whatever you do, you know, moving or not moving, whatever, you know,
I don't so much define meditation anymore, because like when I think of meditation, I think of just stilling myself, and I can make my thoughts go completely still. I can stare outside the window at a tree and not think of absolutely anything at all for an extended amount of time. I can almost lose time like that. Although I don't know that I'm exactly in my body when I'm doing that. I can
probably
journey.
not.
Yeah, I can journey. I like to do the I've noticed the last few weeks that like my phone has really sucked me in more than I like for it to. So I've made a point to like I'll play music through a speaker through my phone, but other than that, like my phone's just on the kitchen counter and I don't touch it for most of the evening, because I don't like being drawn into my phone. To me, that's a distraction, and that's just like a dopamine search that I don't really even need. But I do like at the end of the night, like right before I go to bed, I'll do maybe 5 or 6 yoga poses, even just like feet up on the wall, because I can feel the tension drain out of my body and I sleep a lot better. And so for those two, I don't judge any of the thoughts, but I get good at my thoughts being able to still when I do that. I don't do guided meditations particularly. You're talking about like beings that are wanting to communicate. I tend to do that outside in my backyard at night or by the fire. And I told Martine, I don't know that I said it on here, but there was one night a few weeks ago where I had gone outside. I was looking for meteors because we've been having a lot of meteor showers lately. And I'd taken my cup of tea outside around 11:30 or so and had sat back to look at the meteors to see what I saw. And I just kind of thought, well, I'll play, you know, and I opened my mind up to like, well, who wants to communicate? And I saw like thousands of beings circling around me. And they said everyone. And I looked at that and I was like, there is no veil anymore. Like it's not just that the veil is, you know, we say the veil is thin, there is no veil anymore. And I wondered if it was like the time that we're in, or if it's just that level of awareness that I was in and that frequency that I was in that moment, which is probably more the latter. But I found that so interesting. It wasn't even intimidating or scary. It was just kind of like, wow. And then I had a fire Saturday night. Yeah, I had said that my business partner and I had gotten crossways earlier, and so I wanted to go out and have a fire just to get that feeling out of my frequency. And I sat back and I felt something completely new come in, and it was Athena, which I've never called on or had any kind of dialogue with before, and that was a very interesting conversation. So I think it just depends on what mindset you are. If you allow it but use your discernment, there is a lot of communication wanting to take place right now.
Yeah.
Very, very interesting that you were mentioning the beings. So I've been to the Ancient Civilization Conference in Denver, and I mean, it's not a big space. I mean, they only fit in that room like 110 people or something like that, and it was not booked out. It was not sold out, so it was quite. You know, you saw nearly everyone in there, unless there's somebody when you sit in there coming in from the back and he's sitting in the back and then leaving earlier. Okay, you don't see those. But the videos are now up, so you can watch them on the Gaia TV center, whatever. And some of the people that are with are actually rewatching some of the speakers, and then they also sometimes swipe in the public, you know, to show you who's there. And Jeff just took a screenshot of a guy who just looks like Jesus, honestly, you know, and he's like, "Have you seen that guy?" And we were all like, "No fucking way. We didn't see that guy at all." And he was sitting in front of us. So, you know, he was in the rows in front of us because I saw a person that I saw that I knew that I saw all the time, but I didn't see him. So it's like, okay, who was there? Who actually, you know, joined there? Because we didn't see that guy. He was not at lunch. He was later. I mean, he had such piercing eyes, you know, and this long, walling brown hair. you would have like, the first thing is in mind, oh, that's Jesus. You know, it's just because of the image that is being fed into us by our civilization. So it was just amazing. We were laughing, you know, out loud, like, oh my God, you know, who was actually there then? Have we been there?
But that's amazing. That's amazing to look out for. That happens now. Melting point. All the species are coming in and allow themselves to be seen. We don't have to wait for 2026 because we already communicate them, right?
It's around the corner anyway.
Amazing. That's great because now we can take photos of them. Remember there was a time where we couldn't do the orbs. We had to have a special camera, digital in the beginning, and now you can see them without having to take a picture, right? You sometimes you post some orbs, Jennifer, right? From your garden.
Last night, I took a video of a ship, but my flash turned on. Which it never does at night on video, but my flash turned on, so it's really grainy. But you can see it come in, go out, come in, go out, come in, go out, come in, go out. I'll send it to you now. I mean, it was just a few seconds because it was right as I had gone outside to let Roscoe run and sip my tea on my bench. I looked up at the sky and I was sending somebody a voice message and I paused for a second because it was so bright and hovering so close that I was just really taken aback by it. And so then I took a video.
Amazing. But that's the other side of the melting point. You know, melting point is not just about having a breakdown. That's part of it if you want to, or if, you know, allow yourself to have one, because, you know, it's just showing us the next level of where we should be, where we can be, what choices we can make. Or it's that interspecies, you know, intercelestial communication. I think it's so exciting. So exciting. And there's a lot of talk. I mean, there's a lot of, you know, I don't know. Do you feel like no longer the need so much to figure out what your past lives were, or, you know, where did the walking come from? I actually don't care. It makes no difference because, you know, it's all melting point. We're all here anyway. It's not just one walk in there. You know, how many other beings, you know, have walked in since then, integration wise, you know, and things like that. It's really
the thing that starts to get to me a little bit, because I'm getting angry about it. Angry, just annoyed. I'm reading a book written in 1921. It's an essay on the occult a little bit, and it's Theosophy, and he's writing about the big secret. So actually he's just pulling everything together from all the religions, but in 1921, and it's written like, you know, my God, this is exactly where we are now. It's 2024, you know, and it's like they knew that already, you know, and he's referring even to then sciences from the reports that came out in 1865 on that the geologists at that moment already said that everything in Egypt is much older than we think it is because of the affluents, you know, the alluviums piling up of the Nile, and they found in 75 feet deep, they found, you know, whatever statuettes of Thoth and who have you not, of all the deities, you know. And that must have been, you know, 12,000 years ago or 13,000 years ago and 20,000 years ago. And not only 3,500 years ago, which apparently, you know, is when all the Egyptologists said that it happened. It's absolute crap, you know. And then you're like, what have we been fed? Was World War II, in a sense, the next thing that should have destroyed everything and where we would have had the reset button for real? And now we're just lingering in, you know, half-truths of what was out there, and now we're trying to put it all together, but then somebody's just stating that this is all just parascience and alternative whatever, you know, not really looking into that everything has just been one big thing, and we don't know where it's coming from because we are always evolving and still evolving into it. So it's like, okay, do I have to, you know, everything that has been written from, you know, it's like, what?
I feel at this stage of my life, I don't want to learn anything from a book anymore. I don't want to listen to people anymore, what they've got to say, other than ourselves who are, you know, just telling experiences and playing, exploring. Because frankly, whatever we have learned in the books is only half-truths, if half-truths, you know. And at this stage of the game, I'd rather wait, you know, a couple more years until everything is going to be disclosed. Because frankly, you know, that's what Bashar was actually saying as well. And I'm like, yes, I like that, you know, that when that event is going to happen, and obviously, you know, other people saying this as well, that the whole real history of humankind and this planet and the galaxy will be released. And I think at that stage, I don't even care about that anymore, to be honest, you know.
We're like, okay,
I'm like,
welcome to the party.
And I think, you know, since I've started painting, I've really allowed myself to completely disconnect from all of that. You know, stepping into a different thing. I don't think when I paint. I don't listen to, you know, I do listen to, you know, the odd podcast or something, because there's always little snippets of confirmation, you know, and inspiration in it. But other than that, it's all about experience now, right? Yeah.
Yep. Exactly.
Melting point. Melting point.
When I'm painting or when I'm drawing, that really is when I can completely drop out of time and I have no connection with time and everything expands around me. That's the best, like that just being in pure creative energy is where all the magic is for me.
It's that real timelessness of the moment, of the now. There's no space either. There's no time, there's no space, there's just, yeah, maybe perception at the end when I look at him thinking, oh, what the hell is this? This is not finished yet. You know, that kind of thing. But yeah, no, it's even difficult to explain. And this is why I think passions are so difficult to communicate now, because they've changed so much, right? They used to be so, yeah, let's do it. There's none of that. There's just like, yes. It's like, yes. You know, that kind of thing. Or I wouldn't do it if that's not the thing. That's the other thing of this melting point somehow. It's like you don't have to question it anymore. Do you really want to do this? Well, I wouldn't be doing it if I wouldn't want to do it. Because I don't do procrastination. That's good for me, because I don't judge myself for procrastinating. If I don't want to do it, I just don't do it. That's it. Because I have this reframed long time ago. Well, obviously somebody else wants to do it for me, because, you know, symbol of abundance is not just money. It's allowing yourself to be gifted, or, you know, again, I heard that at Bajar's latest. I'm like, yeah, love, yeah. Allow yourself to be gifted something, you know, or communication was part of that. That actually triggered now that action and what did I say? Action and interaction.
Interaction.
Because that is literally exchange of abundance.
Yeah.
And you know, it's not about what we're saying, right? If it's right or wrong, it's about the energy that we are exchanging. Jennifer?
Well, I was thinking about something completely different before you said that, but yes, that gift of interaction, you walk away with like the feeling of awe and magic or information or connectedness. And that is a beautiful thing to be able to hold, and it builds that psychic confidence, right? But I was thinking about what I've gifted myself recently. And when I first moved into this house, I had this plan for an arrangement of paintings, of my paintings that I was going to hang on the wall. And I wanted to do it like in a square pattern, which requires like a lot of measurement, making sure everything was exactly the right height. And I really procrastinated it because it just seemed so awful to do that. In fact, I even bought like a long ledge to put them on a ledge in series instead of having to hang them all exactly the same height. And one day, last week or the week before, I just sucked it up and started measuring it out and doing it. And I hung like one row a night for 3 nights. It only took me maybe 30, 40 minutes each night to get all that ready. So in less than 3 hours total, I had the project done, but I had put it off for 2 years. And once I did that, like I felt it unlock something different in my house. And now my house just feels like an artist's loft, and everything around me feels really relaxed and easy and out of time and just pure creative energy. And so like that prompted me to buy the light fixtures that I've been wanting to buy. So I've had like probably 10 light fixtures changed out in my house now. And so those like elevate it also and make it feel more like me. Now I'm starting to do projects on my house that make my house feel even more aligned with me. So that was the gift of abundance that I gave myself.
That's beautiful.
That's
And
beautiful.
how is that not divine timing? Would you not
I
say?
don't. I believe in divine timing. I just think people throw it out there as an excuse sometimes
Oh,
too. So
Oh,
explain
yeah.
later, yeah,
2 years ago, would you have had the same awareness?
absolutely not.
Divine timing. There is no procrastination. I'm telling you.
Well, I don't know if there's divine timing when it comes to like invoicing, which is usually what I procrastinate because I hate billing.
You know, I think this is what Madame is not, you know, that is where she's like, oh no, you cannot get entangled with that. Well, I mean, you know, some of us, we need to.
So I mean, yeah.
In my days when I you know, did lots of sessions with people, you know, so many people came for procrastination because it's such a business out there, such a business, lack of confidence and procrastination. And I said, I'm sorry, there's no such thing as procrastination, and there's no such thing as lack of confidence either. And then we started talking about something completely different. And all of a sudden there was no such thing as procrastination, because at the end of the day, you know, it wasn't for him to do or for her to do that in the first place. You know, so divine timing is one of those things. But have you ever procrastinated when you really, really, really want to do something? And it lights up your heart and this and that? No. When you measure your paintings, that's not progress. That would kill me if I have to measure my paintings. That's not progress. That would literally I would not. I'm like, you should see where my pictures are, anywhere. They want to hang frame my pictures. But then I hear you. It unlocked something in your house.
Mhm.
So you had,
Sometimes you just need to, yeah.
You had to do it.
Yes.
It wouldn't unlock anything in my house, but you had to do it.
And 5 years ago, I would have been so precise that I would have measured to at least a 16th of an inch on like where to put the hangers and things like that on the. But instead, I folded over a Post-it and I had a line with a Sharpie, and that was the line that I measured on the back of every one of those paintings for the. And still somehow it worked out absolutely fine. I only had to adjust the hangers for one of the paintings up by a little bit. I used a Post-it that was folded over and a level, and that's all I used to, well, in a yardstick, that's all I used to get them up on the wall. Instead of having the laser and all the stuff that I would have obsessed with.
Oh,
Yours-
God, I don't
The
even know there's such a
engineer.
thing.
So simple.
I'm not even using a level. I'm like,
What's
yeah,
a
that's
level?
good.
I know what a level is,
Yeah.
but that's about it. Yeah.
Oh, I used to have a laser. I had all this stuff, and this one I was just like, you, Martina, if it's not where it's supposed to be when I hang it, then I'll just move it and I'll have a bunch of holes in the water to patch later. I don't care. But I only had to adjust 1 out of 9, so.
But I did see the Facebook. I was already impressed.
Yeah,
But
it
I was like,
Me too.
she's good. She's good.
They
Did they
were
want to hang? Did they want to hang in a certain order, or did you? Yeah, they did, right? They want
Yeah.
to. Uh-huh.
Right.
I
Yeah,
still
they-
have my little thingy that is still hanging like this because it doesn't want to be straight. It doesn't want to be straight. Okay.
You gotta listen. You gotta listen. You're absolutely right. Some of them want to hang in order. Yeah, because I hear mine screaming now, not about the order, but they want to come down completely. And I'm like, okay, let's do it.
I
So-
had some that I wanted to, I've got an event on September 21st where I do sessions and sell artwork. It's the Crystal and Light Expo. And I was starting to gather things because I was going to take, like, I've been decluttering too. Like, I want a whole lot less stuff all of a sudden. And like all these paintings that I had around my house, like on tables and stuff like that, that were smaller, I'm like, oh, I'll sell this. No. All right, so I put it back down. Like, you
Yeah.
can't all day. They're like, yeah, we can. So once things are in my house, I don't like to leave my house.
Yeah, but you gotta listen to the house, to what's in it. Absolutely. It was interesting when I did the market this weekend, and I had lots of, my little bits and pieces. I mean, just a few that I had already in boxes. I brought them. And I had 2 people come. I was so impressed. They loved them. And this one girl, she came with her grandson, I think, and she was like, okay, I think she bought 15 little bits and pieces. I said, what are you going to do with them? I'm like, poor you. I'm just everywhere I've got them. And she's like, no, I love them. I love them. I love them everywhere. So she bought 50. And I'm like, how does it get better than that? Right? I had to collect them for her to now have them all in one place. It's my responsibility as a collector.
No, you're a finder. You're not a collector. You're a finder.
I'm a finder. Yeah, you're right. Actually, I'm not a collector. I'm a finder. Yeah. So, okay, that's actually a very good point. I'm a finder. Thanks for reminding me, because then I have my responsibilities to let them go. So
Exactly.
that's what,
Exactly.
yeah, that was actually the thing. Exactly.
Mhm.
So yeah, for her to find them in one place. And then of course I had to think one thing, okay, so let's take this now from that app's called farm place I was standing on. I'm like, okay, this is Galactic Commerce Market. How am I doing this already on that level? And then I started writing down a few things, and I was like, oh, okay, time tokens. I'm selling time tokens for people to go into various eras of time, and then they have their own little headphones where they just pop the coin in, and then they can relive whatever happened in that time. So, so that's how it all spun out. And this is why that action that I took, that interaction that I had led me then to get back into the big picture. So sometimes those little distractions, like doing markets and stuff like that, are good distractions. But at the end of the day, for me, I know why I'm here, and I'm here for even relationships. This is distractions for me. Like that usual relationship, have a husband and do things together, sit around the table. It's all distraction. I know it sounds wacky, but all of this, or having lots of kids around the house, and it's like, it's all distraction. I've got to work on different levels. Having said all of that, everything has its place, melting point. So this is what we've been talking about here today for the last 2 hours. And I'm super grateful for you ladies to be here and share that time, interact with me. That was my action for today. Now, I did go for a walk as well. And any words of wisdom to finish off? Good? Are we all melted? Good. Okay, well then I thank you for being here, and this recording is going to go out, and I'll see you next week.
Yep, it will.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.